Welcome to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show with me, Jess Tomlinson. Interviews to inspire a new movement of leaders and entrepreneurs. The ones who lead with vulnerability and authenticity, stand in visibility, allowing themselves to truly be seen, are fierce and playful and sexy. Choose business as a spiritual practice. Seek collaboration versus competition. No, giving back is not an option. It's a necessity. They do it their way. They radiate. They rise. Now, let's rise together. All right. Welcome, everyone, back to the Radiantpreneur Rising Show. I'm Jess Tomlinson, and I am over the moon excited. I know normally I say I'm excited for our guests, but today I'm over the moon, heart bursting wide, excited to interview an amazing woman who we've worked together, we've played together, we have been soul sisters and circle, womb sisters, doing sacred dance together. She's just a really, really special person, has so much wisdom to share in the work that she offers the world. Her name is Sheri Moise, and I'm so happy she's here. Welcome, Sheri.
Thank you, Jeff. I am so happy to be here and be in your radiance once again, even if it's virtual.
Yes, I know. We got to take it where we can get it, right?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah. It just feels so good to be able to have this conversation and just see where it goes. So thanks for being up for it.
I'm happy to be here.
Yay. Well, the one question that I ask everyone, and I'm guessing you might know, I think you've watched a few episodes, yeah? Yeah. Is how are you currently leaning into your visibility edges in life and business right now?
Well, super timely question. For me, yeah, through our work together, that was really how I showed up, being curious about knowing that I needed to be more visible. Mm-hmm. So it's really been my journey of 2019, of figuring out what felt good, what felt in alignment. And with your loving support, I tried and tested a lot of things that felt okay, but not super excited about. So decided recently to, we had talked about this at one point, really doing a summit, because for me, co-creating is so powerful. Mm-hmm. So I'm jumping into that, and my visibility edge there, though, is reaching out to people that I don't know, really expanding my circle. Yeah. And being okay knowing that people are going to be checking out my website and looking at my profile and figuring me out, before they get on a call with me. And for me, that has been a bit of a little journey here over the past few weeks of, feeling into that and being, just letting it go,
Yeah. I love that. And I can so resonate. When I did my very first summit, I challenged myself to do a similar thing, to reach out to people that I didn't know. And it's so scary, right? Because you just don't know, if you're going to get a yes or a no, and moving through all those emotions of not taking things personally, but also being proud of yourself. So I'm curious for you, what really helped you be able to do that?
It's been really reminding myself that we're not supposed to work with everybody, right? And that we're supposed to connect to the people we're supposed to connect with. And so if it's not a yes for somebody, then it's okay, because it wasn't meant to be. So really leaning into that trust and faith that the right people are going to be brought into my universe. Something about me is going to resonate with them if they're meant to connect. And that's been, and then as soon as I start to doubt myself, I get a yes response. The universe is you're okay. It's okay.
Yeah. Right. I know it can bring up so much of that, like me, like, yeah, do you want to be friends with me? Like, you know, adult friendships and building these like partnerships and relationships, it feels vulnerable. And yeah, so I love that you, to me, it sounds like, yeah, you really leaned into trust and then surrendered to kind of that, like the same philosophy that we oftentimes have to take, right, when it comes to even getting clients. Like, you know, if it's not an aligned yes, then we're just not meant to work together. And that's okay. Like actually calling it good.
Yeah. Yeah. And just being, I joke that I'm a recovering perfectionist, right? Like, oh, I can't do this yet because my website isn't perfect. Like, it doesn't really reflect everything I want it to reflect. And then it was like, no, because every time I think that, and it comes back to the trust, right? Every time I think that, then something shows up and it's like, oh, I knew I was meant to work with you.
Yeah.
And that's the energy I really want to lean into.
Yeah.
And so it requires reminding myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so good. And I also love that you gave yourself permission to like play in different areas of visibility. Like I know you were doing a lot of Facebook Lives and really like stepping into new levels of visibility can also feel a little bit like, ooh, but you just really open yourself up to trying new things. And I think that that's such a great example for people to know that there's all different ways of being visible. And sometimes it just takes some experimentation.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like you don't know until you try. Like you can say, oh, that's probably not for me. But I think, you know, testing things, it's like this whole business is like test and trial, test and, you know, test and check the results, like, and check how you feel about it. Like there's certain things that I know I'm like a absolute no, I don't need to test and trial those things. But other things I don't know, or I want to push my growth edge, you know, and I think that's what this journey of visibility for me is about, is like, it's about growing into being seen.
Yeah.
And not, strangely, not as much by others as more like for myself, like seeing myself, because it's a reflection back. Like really, when people reflect back to me how they see me, then that really is the powerful piece. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. I love this point because I don't think it gets brought up enough. Like what I'm hearing you say is that, you know, sometimes we can be our own worst critics, right? And so we just need to do it for us and then receive that mirroring back of being able to know what we know is like deep inside our hearts. But oftentimes we can be, you know, like feel not validated around maybe. I know that's something that like I've definitely had to just admit is that I like to receive feedback from people. Like I want to know that you're resonating with this. And like part of me can feel a little bit like, oh, I shouldn't need that. And it's also, I think, part of being human and part of wanting to serve. Like we shouldn't depend on it. That's where it gets sticky, right? But actually like welcoming that it's okay to want that, I think is so important.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll raise my hand and say, I do want that. I like that. I like to know that what I'm doing resonates, but I've had to learn through this process that the number of clicks, the number of views, the open rate is not, it's not a reflection of who I am.
No.
And that is, I think, a challenge, you know, for people, you know, as I work with clients, as I talk with peers, like that's challenging because you can get caught up in the number side of things instead of like, okay, well, what is it something's not resonating? Do I not have the right audience? Do I not have the right message? Am I not speaking authentically? And for me, I think that's been my like hold up, the thing that is like, I know when I'm not in alignment, and I know this, but like doing it, like if I'm not in alignment, then I'm not attracting, and then I'm not moving forward. And so I'm learning to get curious about what is going on and not taking it personally. Like I've learned like you don't know who you're resonating with.
Yeah.
Even if they're not clicking or liking, they might be watching. So show up.
Yeah, you just never know. Even if the numbers don't reflect sometimes, like you never know who is watching, who's receiving what they need for the day, who's like, I remember one time, long time ago, I had a woman write me an email saying that I saved her life. Like that felt like a lot of pressure, but it was like back when I was talking about self-care stuff. And like, she was like, I was contemplating killing myself. And so it's an extreme example.
Yeah, no,
But it's something that I remember and that is so present for me. And I'm grateful that I had that experience early on, because it just reminded me of the impact that we can make even when we think nobody's listening, or, you know, it doesn't matter that much, or who am I?
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's just showing up and bringing your message, you know.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's one thing I got really present to was that this year that I have a message, you know, I have, and it doesn't matter how big or small my tribe is supposed to be, those people, you know, my message is important for those people,
Yeah.
you know, and it's just finding my way to them and their way to me.
Mm-hmm.
And that means being visible. You know, I can't hide and hope they'll show up.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've got to show up, but I got to do it authentically.
Yeah. Yeah. I would love for you to share, because I know your journey of, you know, commitment to alignment, and like, you know, we've both taken that kind of commitment and evolved in our businesses in different ways. And I just feel like it's so powerful for people to hear, you know, what it's like to actually give yourself permission to be committed to alignment, and what realignment looks like, and how things will shift. And like, you know, so would you be willing to share like your journey of maybe when you felt like you were misaligned, and how you were able to realign in business, and of course how it's a constant journey, which we both know, but but I'd love to just for you to share your perspective on that and what that's been like for you.
Yeah. So starting out, you know, I was really focused on, you know, helping women in midlife and more life coaching mentor kind of, you know, perspective. And that's where I kind of like put my stake in the ground and said, I want to help these people because it'll help their families. It'll be a trickle down effect. I'm very much the put the pebble in the water and kind of girl. Like I want to create that ripple effect.
Yeah.
And so I thought, oh, how beautiful I can do this. And it was like, and I did all the things. Like I took, okay, I'm building the course, and I'm creating the avatars, and I'm doing all the things, and I'm doing Facebook ads, and it's just going nowhere. Like it's like I'm trying to like clog through the mud, and everything was a challenge. Like, or it would like, oh, it's resonating, but nobody's buying, or and I realized after a time that, you know, I wasn't in alignment, not with who I was helping. I still believe and know that that's important, but it was more that I needed to be like more of the teacher that I am, like that is the more of that part of me, that teacher, that mentor, and the healer spiritual side of me. Like um, that's where I started to really more resonate. And I realized as I started to look at that piece and that audience and got a lot of feedback from people that I was helping by accident, you know, or on purpose maybe, but not with intention at that time, that like this feels so much better. Like this is more of, I can help more people this way. If I can make sure that coaches, healers, alternative practitioners have the tools they need to have a sustainable business, to do their work in the world, then wow, how many more people can I reach through that effect? And when I started to step into that more, this whole different energy showed up. And that's when I really realized that I just hadn't really been in alignment. Like you can believe in something and think it's important. And actually, I had success, a lot of success working with those women. And that success translates into things I teach the coaches that I work with now.
Yeah.
But it wasn't where I was supposed to be. It wasn't what lit me up. It wasn't as, I just wasn't aligned. So the universe was holding me back a little bit and saying, wait a minute. So it forces you to look, right? Which is the hard part. And it was hard. I felt like a failure, and a lot of shame around I spent all this money and I put all this energy into this, and look, what do I have to show for it?
Mm-hmm.
And which I now know isn't true, but in that moment, you start to judge yourself. And instead of knowing now what I know is it's a journey, and if you don't allow yourself to grow and pivot when you need to, then you're going to stay stagnant, and that's not who I want to be. If I wanted that, I'd probably stayed in corporate.
Right. Yeah.
I could have stayed there and collected a paycheck. That would have been easy but soul crushing. So couldn't do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I love how you broke it down. Thank you for doing that, of, how you felt and just your experience. And that I think a lot of people get stuck in well, what are the signs? And am I misaligned, or am I just doubting myself, and I should just push harder and do more? And I feel like we have similar viewpoints. And if you're having to push really hard, if you're doing the things, right, that and those things that feel like they're in alignment for your natural way of putting yourself out there and really, and getting clients, which can be an experiment in and of itself. But if you are doing those pieces like you were, and things are still crunchy and feeling hard and exhausting, that is a sign of misalignment, of you're being called to be on a different path. And that doesn't mean anything really. It just means that it's time to shift. And what a gift that it doesn't feel like a gift at the time. Trust me, people. But what a gift later, when you can look back like Sheri and I, be how awesome that we felt and trusted that, and then gave ourselves permission to change, even if maybe we felt like we're a failure, or what are people going to think if I'm shifting and changing and all that stuff. But it's such a benefit.
Yeah. And I think the best thing I did at that point was, the other thing I needed to do was shift who I was aligned with.
Yeah.
And get different eyes on me and my situation and how I was showing up.
Yeah.
Because I needed people who really could listen to me in a different way. And so that was the other piece. I was misaligned with, where I was getting support.
Mm-hmm.
And not, they're amazing people. And I learned so much. I say I got a PhD in online business,
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm still in it, but in the learning phase. But that was the other thing. If you're feeling something's not, I love your word crunchy. I love that word. Then finding someone, and, for me, one of my mentors just really allowing me to be me, and just reflecting back to me that it was okay, and that these were my other gifts, and that I wasn't leaving, I needed that other perspective. So, because then you can get real about whether it's doubt and fear holding you back. Are we just playing small, or are we misaligned? I do think there is that edge that is fine line sometimes, because I know since I have shifted, I tried to play small for a little while, and I had to get Jess to come in and help me fly my cape, put on my cape and feel like I could do this.
Which you totally did.
So, but that's that thing, of finding, Yeah,
I think that's a very good point too. It's really having the people around you that also have similar philosophies in business and life, are so important. I know I've experienced that as well, where I've hired mentors out of a fear because I thought I saw something in them that I needed, but really we were so different that they actually didn't understand, you know, my values and business and what's important to me and what works for me. And there can oftentimes as well, like, be that, like, let me just teach you everything that works without actually like looking at the unique person and asking what works for you, like, you know, what feels best to you.
You know, there, and it's so funny because you realize in hindsight, there were all these red flags. Like, how many times do I have to explain to you what I actually do? Like, why don't you get my messaging? Why can't you help me write copy? Because you're not listening to me. Like, and it wasn't that they weren't listening to me. It was like that this wasn't supposed to work, like in that situation. But like, it's really being present to like all the signs, the things that are going on, and asking yourself those powerful questions.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Yeah. I love that we've just like dove into this piece around alignment, and it's so huge. It's so big. It can literally like be the difference between feeling fulfilled and that inner freedom that we're all like desiring, and feeling purposeful, and just feeling defeated and like flattened out. And I think what I'd love for you to share more about, Sheri, is this piece that is so big in your work around the heart. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, I know everything for you comes back to this heart power, and that's part of like what you did in your work as a healer and working with midlife women, and you brought it in to now being a business coach. And so will you talk a little bit more about how that piece has really guided you in your own work and your own business, and of course with clients as well? But I'd love to hear your own journey with the heart.
Oh, thank you. You know, I honestly, you know, it's very funny because it honestly goes back to like, I remember being in the rabbi's office in like, must have been like right around confirmation class, because we do bat mitzvah and then confirmation for those of you that aren't of the Jewish faith. Yeah. And there was a book he had us read, and it's on my bookshelf still, called The Still Small Voice. And I actually went back and looked at it, and I'm not sure, I think he pulled something out of it that for me, I remember that moment when he talked about like that we have that God spark basically in each of us, like, and for me, that was that, and it's in your heart, like it's in your soul. It's like who you are. It's like you are part of all that is. And that if you can listen to that guidance, like it's within you, you are it, all of that. And so that was kind of that first like moment of, for me, of that connection. Because I was very much growing up like in my head, and I'm very, you know, was the straight A student, the responsible one, the doer that took care of herself, all of those things. So that means you got to be in your head a lot. You don't have to. That's what I thought. Like that it took to be safe, to protect myself, meant that I had to be thinking everything through and figuring everything out, and not relying on that inner guidance system that existed already for me. And for everyone. It just is. It's what we all have, that gift, that inner guidance system. And so over, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, when I started doing volunteer work for Heart Math, and then, you know, got certified and trained, it was a beautiful transition for me because I still got to use my brain, because there's very much brain science around, and science around the heart brain. And it dropped me back into this piece of connecting to your heart, of managing your emotions, your well-being, all of your being. And what I really pulled from that I've really helped people presence to, is this: we need to be bottom-up processing. Like, we need to allow ourselves to acknowledge all of our feelings, our emotions. We need to know we have the ability to manage them, to navigate them with more grace and ease, have tools to do that. But when we can acknowledge how we're feeling, and then then think, then make a decision, then make a choice, then we're going to be at our best. We're accessing the best of ourselves. And so and it goes back to that alignment, authenticity, like, the more people that are connected to their heart, the more people that are tapped into their true self, what really feels good to them. Because it's like not thinking like I should do this. This is the way you're supposed to do it. But like, how do I tell my clients all the time, how does it feel in your body? Like, what comes up when you think about doing that? What is it what emotion comes up? If your body tenses up, then okay, let's talk through that. Like, what's going on? We need to be not, I should, like you were saying earlier, something like, I should be able to do that. This is what you're supposed to do. So that's my passion piece around all of it. Like, if you're not tapped in, then you're disconnected. You can't, if you're only living from here, you're missing out on it's a landscape, this whole landscape that we have available to ourselves, to our being. And if the more tapped into it, the more connected you are to it, the more your life is going to be full and joyful and successful.
Yeah, absolutely. Would you be willing to share like a recent time where you really had a decision to make, maybe in business or life, and you needed to tap into your heart and really, or use your heart power to be able to, kind of take that next step, and what that looked like?
Yeah, absolutely. It was it's a daily thing on some level, right? But I think, the decision for me to invest again in a mentor when I really had no financial business doing it, when I knew that if I didn't, I was gonna stay stuck. That I needed that support, that I needed somebody, and that the thing I knew is that I needed it in a different way than I'd been getting it before. That for me, I love community and I need community in my life, but I need somebody who can sit and reflect to me. So really tapping in and really trusting the process, and saying, okay, what's true for me, what's real for me, and can I move forward without somebody by my side right now? I have all the tools. I know what, quote unquote, I know what to do, but that wasn't it. So my heart said, I'm not ready to give up. I'm ready to pivot, but I need more. And you were the angel that showed up in my life at that moment. And which was such a gift and blessing on so many levels. But that was a big thing for me to have to say, can I do this? Like, can I invest again and not feel shame around it and guilt around it because I've already invested so much and I'm not paying it back yet? Or, but can I do this without doing this? Like, what does my heart say? What feels right? If I just used my head, I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now. With you. If I just thought it through. Because on paper, it was not the right decision.
Right. Yeah. I love this so much because it really sounds to me like, because you sat with yourself and your heart and really like use that, as you say, bottom up type decision making, which I love that. I remember when you came to me and you were so clear on what you needed. And I was like, ooh, this woman has like done like that inner work, that's needed to like actually have a conversation with your heart and not just up here, which is where we get the idea that we think we just need another strategy. Like you'd really dropped in. And I remember you being so clear on one of the like, intake questions when people start to work with me, where I say like, what do you need, from me? And you were like, I need someone to reflect, what I'm saying, reflect parts of me that I'm not seeing. I was like, wow, that is so amazing that you knew that. And like, what a gift to be able to know that, for anybody. Like, this is a good lesson, because oftentimes we wouldn't even be able to see what we need if we're not tapped into our heart and letting just our minds run the show. Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And as a coach or mentor for someone, like that, knowing that everybody's different and they need you to show up a different way, which is why everybody, we need so many of us, because everybody needs something different. Like, everybody's going to resonate with something different. But asking for what you want, the only way you can do that is if you sit with yourself and really listen and get real about, and it's hard to say, like, and not hard to say, but I mean, I had to say, like, I know that from now on, when I need to have someone in my life always that who will reflect back to me, who I can just show up and throw up with and like talk it all out. This is who I am. This is what I need to do. Like,
yeah.
But not everybody needs to do that. And not every coach is built to do that for you. So like knowing that this is me showing up authentically, and then finding the alignment with whoever I'm going to work with is about, and it goes back to visibility, like being being visible, being open to who you are and how you work and how you need to be worked with. Like, I want to give everybody permission to, as a client, as a whatever, as a patient, as a partner, like, what is it that you need, like, that to be heard? What is it that you need to get your needs met? And, and there's all kinds of ways to find that in this world, but you deserve that. Like, everybody deserves to be seen and heard in a way that fills them up. And the only way you know that is if you do that inner work to check in with yourself and start asking, like, well, how did that feel? Like, oh, I had this chat with Sheri. How did that feel? Oh, I chatted with Jess. How did that feel? Like, when you start asking and then reflecting, you'll start to know exactly what is your style that works for you.
Yes. And for everyone listening, I just want to echo what you keep saying, which is, how do you feel? Not what do you think, right? Which is where we can kind of tend to go. And I also want to point out that oftentimes if we're feeling like we're in survival mode, which, can happen as entrepreneurs, right? This is like risky business and we're navigating and we're ups and downs, clients, no clients. It is so important to prioritize being able to create that space to take care of yourself, as Sheri's saying, and to like really tap into your own needs so that you're not coming from that place of fear response all in your head, and really asking yourself that important question, how do I feel? So I just wanted to bring that piece up because I love how you stand for people and their self-care, Sheri. I know we're like self-care sisters. So what do you want to share about your own journey of self-care and how that now plays into your business and your priorities?
Yeah, that is like my line in the sand, right? Like, you can have a thriving business and a happy, successful you. Like, you get to have it all, period. Like, that is my line in the sand for everybody. But because I know, having been on the other side, like, and it just breaks my heart seeing all the, posts and conversations around burnout and people feeling exhausted. And, it's having been there, done that. I know what it can do to you. At one time, not only was I in corporate, I was a national sales manager calling on major corporations like Amazon and Target and Walmart and traveling all over the country, had 2 tween-age stepsons that we had 50-50 custody of. And then we ridiculously decided, or I didn't decide, anyway, long story, to have a restaurant at the same time. So I was working 7 days a week, pretty much 24/7. And, you know, and on the exterior of all of it, one might have said like, oh, Sheri has it all. And I was really fit and I was healthy and I was, you know, all of the things. I was doing everything. I was showing up to the baseball games and working the floor on Friday nights and, but almost, you know, destroyed my marriage. And then when we decided it was time to, we did come back together and simplify and take the next steps forward of getting rid of the restaurant. When I actually did leave the restaurant, you know, when it should have been less, like I was freer, I had more space, I just fell apart, physically and emotionally, because the only thing that had been holding me together was adrenaline. I mean, literally, my back went out. You know, for the first time in my life, I can say that I like really was suffering from depression, like extended periods of depression. Didn't want to get out of bed in the morning, you know, and here I had been doing, but it took, my adrenals were completely shot. I was in full blown adrenal fatigue. I was a mess. I was just a mess. And I just, you know, and it was from thinking I needed to take care of everything and take care of everybody. And even though I was feeding myself well and I was exercising, emotionally, and mentally, I was not feeding myself. Even though I had the tools, I think the only reason I survived that as long as I did was because I did have the tools and I was doing my heart math practice and I was doing some things, but it just wasn't sustainable. And so that was when I, you know, made that decision that never again. I mean, I had to go to having selfish Sundays to like find time for myself back then. And I don't think anybody should have to take selfish Sundays from their family, you know, to be able to have time for self-care. Like it's possible to do it every day, a little bit every day, and then you need bigger chunks of it, and everybody's different. But
sometimes you need that though, right? Like the extreme. I know I had to do that in my own life where I was like giving and giving so much, involved in everything, and like the person that would drop everything for everyone. And I had to like go to the extreme in order to like just prioritize me and say no to everything. Just that's
And I don't, you know, I don't want that for people because it's hard. It's hard on your body. It's difficult, you know, and so, you know, prioritizing that and making sure that, you know, you take care of you is just, it's paramount. Like, why do this if you can't? Like, what's the, you know, again, I don't think any of us were put here so just to be worker bees, you know, and just show up and do. We're supposed to be living life, and you can't be living it if you're not connected, if you're not really connected to you. And that takes a commitment, and it takes giving yourself the gift of time.
Yeah. Thanks for sharing so in depth, Sheri. Like, I just love the way you take us into your experience, and so important for people to know that they're not alone. You're not alone, people. Like, you know, but please get yourself out of it as soon as you can, because it's not worth it. And Sheri is definitely an inspiration for just how you pivoted your life like so extremely. So will you tell us a little more about like what did it look like coming out the other side?
Yeah, it was. So that was for me a huge gift. I really stepped into my spiritual self, like, and allowed that piece to come out. That was very much a journey for me. And that's another edge of my visibility of like, you know, saying that I'm a healer, that I can, you know, that I have those kinds of gifts of sight and knowing, and that I can help people on that level. But I did it first, like my learning and becoming a theta healer was to heal myself. And I just gave myself that gift of learning. And then people were showing up in my world that I was helping with anxiety and stress, asking me to go deeper with them. And that was and so I always knew that I wanted to do something outside of corporate. And I always said when the kids were old enough. So that was always on my radar, but I never knew what that was. And so the gift of having that meltdown and finding theta healing and getting involved in this group of entrepreneurs and was giving me permission to like have something to walk into, like and not try to reinvent the wheel, because I probably otherwise would have like thought I needed to go back to school and so that was, so I made that commitment. I said, okay, I'm leaving, and it was just 2 years, Thanksgiving, that I left corporate full time.
Awesome.
So I spent, once I made that decision, once things had settled down in our lives and we had recommitted to our process, I said, okay, I'm leaving corporate, and that's when I started to do all the things. But that was the unfortunate piece, that it was a lot in my head, but out of the gate, it was great, because I just put myself out there and I let it happen, and, had amazing clients right out of the gate. And it was a beautiful thing to just show up and commit. And then I kind of got kicked in the gut a little bit after that, as you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, everything doesn't always, best laid plans, and I was a planner, and I'm like, I have this plan, and this is the way I'm doing it. This is how I'm going to show up. And a month after I left corporate, I got diagnosed with breast cancer. And so that was, and luckily I'm all good. And I was, grade 1, stage 2, and it was very treatable and caught really early. But no matter what, like that really, as much as I thought, I could kind of keep going, and I did keep going. It really gave me pause, and I think slowed my roll, in a way that I I don't think I was as connected. And I think that was part of the problem, because I had so much else going on and so much healing I needed to do with that piece of it, that that's where I feel like I wasn't as clear, because I was so focused on that when I was making business decisions, I had gotten out of alignment because I couldn't see it as clearly at the time. So that was definitely that first year out of corporate, even though I was set up, and I had everything in play, was a challenge, and really left me, like when you and I met, at a place of like, what have I done? Like, and really kicking myself, and really a lot of shame, and feeling, and I've had to reframe the whole, and it's not a failure, and I know that at all. I know it's not at all. Everything I've done and everything I've learned has brought me to a place of being able to support people in a different way, and support myself in a different way.
Yeah. You're so amazing, Sheri. Like, gosh, like it's such, and I know that like you're not alone, and like, wow, I just really want to like acknowledge you for your resilience, and just, I know how powerful you are. Obviously, like we've grown really close and working so closely together as well. Like I got to witness just that resilience in you. Like it's one of the things I love so much. And yeah, I can see people watching this, they're going to take away so much from this story, and just how powerfully you switch those beliefs, right? Of like, all right, I could have looked at this as a failure. I could have looked at this as like, oh my God, why me? And in the moment, totally natural to do that, by the way, like it's okay. Right? Those are the honest I feel.
Right. Yep. There's the honest I feel, then we have to ask what's true about that.
Yeah.
That's the question I like to ask. Like, well, what's really true about that? Did I really fail, or am I just learning? Am I falling forward, into what's next?
Yeah. Wow. That's super powerful. I've been following somebody that I can't remember exactly the question that she asks, but it's like a self-inquiry work where you say something to the effect that what you said just reminded me of this. I forgive myself for believing that blank. And you fill in like whatever the belief was. The truth is blank.
Yeah.
And I'm like, ooh, it's just like so juicy because you're mixing two of my favorite things, which is like forgiveness and then like, you know, looking at what's really true, the higher belief. Like, so it's like honoring that you thought that it's okay, but then also like, you know, pivoting that belief.
Yeah, absolutely. And knowing that we're just in this big school of learning, right? And
Yeah.
what did I get out of that? That's like, so it's a hard thing, I think, for some people to wrap their head around, but I do, because in the moment, you know, what's breast cancer teaching me? I mean, it taught me a lot of things. Like and it has its own gifts, as much as it's challenging and scary and all of those other things. Like even, you know, if I need to pivot, like what did I learn? What am I learning? Like I showed up to learn, and that's what I'm here on this planet to do. That's what my soul wants me to do, which is why I got to be checking in, right? Like,
Yeah.
what is going on? Like, how does that feel? What's that bringing up for me? Like, it's all soul work at the end of the day.
Totally. And it so benefits all those people that are receiving your wisdom through your coaching and your support. And like, so just thank you for all of the work that you do to that ripple effect, right? The pebble, it's just like rippling out, which I think also like it's something that I want to say around that is like, it's such a good reminder when we are the embodiment of our work, you know, like if anything at the end of the day, just do it for yourself. It's okay to like do that because it will naturally ripple out and you will become that embodiment. And I think sometimes we can get so focused on that outward help when the work starts within.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So true. Walk the walk. You know, it's like I've been saying that I'm walking the walk, you know, and talking my talk, because otherwise, you know, people, it's that authenticity, that authentic piece. If you're not showing up as your authentic you, then people know, people see it. So, you know, just do you.
Mm-hmm.
Do you, which is a big word. Like it's a big word. Like you are a big thing. Like, I don't know. I just thought there's this feeling like when you were really showing up, like really just being just, like it's magical, like magical. And it's radiant and it's exactly who you are. Like, and therein lies the power of the law of attraction, right? Because when then we're vibrating at our highest, you know, and we're able to attract the people in our lives, clients, partners, friends, collaborators that we're supposed to, because we're showing up as ourselves.
Oh, I love that. And thanks for the reflection, Sheri. I think about so much like how we met that day. Like, I think I told you this, but maybe not. So Sheri and I met at an event in Santa Cruz, you know, which is where I lived for 3 years, and Sheri's still there, but now I'm back in Las Vegas. And I spoke at this event, and that day that morning, it was so hard for me. I did not want to go to the event, but I was one of the speakers and I didn't have anything planned. And then I started beating myself up like, oh my God, what am I going to share? Like, who am I to just show up and not even plan? I'm a horrible business coach and blah, 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 right? Like all the stories. And then I remember like, you know, giving some sort of talk and feeling really good about whatever came out of my mouth. But I just love like reflecting back on that because that's how we initially had our touch point, right?
Yeah.
Like just thinking of how I beat myself up, but because I showed up and released that and just allowed myself to just be authentic. And I think I even confessed to everybody that I like didn't really want to show up that day,
Yeah.
which is part of my own medicine, like being vulnerable and finding that connection point and just clearing it so that I can move on.
Yep.
Yeah, it's just such a great like story, I think, for anybody to like remember that like those magical connections happen when we are like just allowing ourselves to show up and be and have compassion, not beating ourselves up.
Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. I'm like, I just want to keep going, but I'm gonna wrap us up here. But first, before I ask like, the final like question, which will just be like, if anything comes to you intuitively that you want to share before we end with that, I'd love to hear just like what is lighting you up in your business and your life right now.
Well, in my life, what's lighting me up is I have this adorable granddaughter that I get to spend a couple of, hours, a couple days a week with. And it is so precious to see the world through a 16-month-old's eyes, where everything is a toy and everything is play. And so that I am just so grateful to be able to have a schedule that allows me to do that. And to be receiving that kind of a gift of time, with this amazing being that is still in all wonder, awe, and joy. Like that is lighting me up big time right now. So that's beautiful. And then in business, what's really lighting me up is I'm really stepping into my gift and joy of co-creation and collaborating. Like I know I'm meant to collaborate with people. It's where I thrive, connecting and in connection, not working in a silo. And so I'm doing a micro summit. So the other thing I'm all about is simple, right?
Yeah,
Another one of my big messages is like keeping things simple, like simple, rinse, repeat, doable. So finding that thing for you. I've tried a lot of things and different ways of being visible and showing up. And this is the next thing I'm testing, trying, and right now I'm loving it. Stepping out of my comfort zone, reaching out to people I don't know, making new connections. So I'm bringing together this amazing group of collaborators, co-creators in January, the week of the 13th. And we're going to be talking about very much along the lines of what we're talking about today. The underlying theme here is like, how do you get and stay out of overwhelm as you grow your business?
Yeah.
So I'm launching the Heart Powered Results Show. It'll likely be a quarterly event with just different themes and topics. And so that is so fun and exciting for me. I get to do what we're doing, I get to interview amazing people and bring their message out to a new audience and bring mixed audiences together. I'm really excited to just be curious and then to see what people are looking for and just be in the energy of meeting new people. So it's fun. It's creative. I'm excited about it.
Yay. I'm so excited for you. And it's so much fun, like collaborating with other people and not feeling so alone. And you're an amazing collaborator and just like person to be around in general, not to mention your amazing work. So I'm so excited for your summit. Like I cannot wait for it to check it out. Do you want to provide the link for everybody who's curious?
Yes. So it's just going to be, it's heartpoweredresults.com. So, and it's running this week that the show is running as well. So yeah, and you won't miss anything whenever you sign up this week. You can get all the videos all right away and just dive in at your leisure. So they'll be running all week.
Awesome. Yeah. So if you guys are watching this live when the show episode drops, make sure to go to heartpoweredresults.com. And even if you're not, it sounds like you're going to continue doing these. So go and check out that link. And of course, all the links will be in the show notes as well to connect with Sheri, which I'll just provide that right now since I'm in the flow. Normally I'll do it at the very end, but it's this is episode number, I think it's 42. Let me triple check. Now it just left my mind. Episode
42, Jess.
Yes.
Wow.
That is episode 42. I know, it's so crazy. Yeah, I was just looking at the date when I started this and I was like, wow, it's been more than a year and a half. It's like a year and 7 months as we're filming this. I just like counted back, like, when did I film the first episode? So, yeah, so all of Sheri's links will be over jessicatomlinson.com/show-42, since this is episode 42. So make sure to connect with her, sign up for the summit, keep an eye out for future summits. And then anything that you just feel called to share, Sheri, that like I didn't ask you, or that intuitively you want to leave people with?
I just want to invite you to know that you get to be an intuitive being, and that it's not because you trust your intuition doesn't mean that you are woo-woo or spiritual, or over, that you have to be over in this left-hand field if that's not who you are. Like, that trusting your intuition is actually, I could give you all the science behind it. Like, we're doing it on autopilot on some level, but when you drop in and allow yourself to be that intuitive being, that's when you get in alignment. That's when you'll know to. So I just want to give everybody permission that word kind of gets put in this box, and I would love to see it just be more mainstream, in the sense that it is that first step, one of the steps, one of the pieces to dropping into who you are and what you're all about, is trusting yourself, trusting your knowing. Because you do have that guidance system. It's running all the time in there. There's a heart brain, literally. And if anybody ever wants to know the science, I'm happy to explain it all. But, there is this cross section between science and spirituality. So if that makes you more comfortable, it's science. But at the end of the day, I want people to have permission to be their beautiful, intuitive selves. We shut that down. A lot of those senses get shut down, and it's always available to you.
Yeah. Beautiful way to end. I love that, Sheri, and thank you for being just the example and embodiment of that type of a leader. So needed. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Yay. I love you so much. And we want to hear from everyone who watched this episode. So make sure to find Sheri and myself on social media. Do you have a favorite platform for people to connect with you, Sheri?
Yeah, definitely Facebook. So Heart, Mind, Energy, or Heart Powered Coaches and Healers Collective. So if that resonates with you, join our little tribe that we're building over there.
Nice. I love it. Let us know what you think about this episode, what ahas you're getting. Drop us a line. We'd love to hear. And thank you so much, Sheri. I love you.
I love you too.
All right. See you all in the next episode.